The doctor inhaled deeply, then expelled his breath in a long sigh of satisfaction. He shuffled himself into an even more comfortable position in the canvas chair which he had placed in what he judged to be the optimum location on the bank of the lake, and relaxed again, his eye scanning not only the placid surface of the water, but also the brightly coloured float motionless at the end of his fishing line. Then, just for an instant, he stiffened slightly, before relaxing again.
Come to do one of your regular knock-and-run-away visits, have you?
He inquired, without turning round.
How did you know I was here?
I'm beginning to recognise the specific group of hairs that rise on the back of my neck when you arrive.
Indeed. How interesting.
Suppressing a smile, Dastirium came forward to stand beside him, hands behind her back, studying the lake.
Perhaps we're becoming attuned in some way.
I do hope not.
Are they biting? Whatever it is you're attempting to catch?
Ruufish, if you must know,
said the doctor, awarding an admonitory frown to the motionless float out on the water.
Not to be compared with the peerless Gumblejack, of course. They're quite palatable, if prepared correctly. But they are not, as you have implied, yet biting. It's a shame I don't have one to show you. They're rather striking-looking fish, very colourfully patterned.
Something that can also be said about you. You know, I really wasn't that sure about the celery on the lapel. Now I'm having distinct reservations about the lapel itself.
Excuse me! At least I change my wardrobe. I don't stick to the same looks century after century, not like some people I can mention.
He cast a meaningful glance at her apparel and twitched his fishing rod sharply as an additional rebuke.
Gallantry isn't the strongest feature of this regeneration, is it?
I merely wish to make it plain that if you're going to continue to indulge in this extremely infuriating habit of intruding on me without invitation, I'd be very much obliged if you'd omit the constant critique of my wardrobe whilst you're doing it.
Very well. But I agree, you most certainly do not stick to the same look. And I don't mean your wardrobe. Though the hair seems to be something of a throwback, and the occasional display of hauteur isn't entirely unfamiliar either.
She caught his affronted look and laughed.
You know, I was seriously thinking of compiling a spotter's guide, except that I happen to know someone else has taken on that task.
Who might that be?
Oh, no. No spoilers, Doctor.
She waved a faintly admonitory finger at him.
Not even for you.
Spoilers? Spoilers? What do you mean, spoilers?
It's a phrase you'll become quite familiar with one day.
And how highly unfortunate that it's such an ungainly dissyllable,
said the doctor loftily. Dastirium made only a superficial attempt to mask her amusement. She looked around at the shores of the lake, thickly clad with trees and bushes.
What have you done with Perry?
I have done nothing with Perry. Whatever Perry is experiencing, Perry is responsible for. She's sulking in the TARDIS over there somewhere.
He gestured airily and imprecisely over his shoulder.
Yes, I passed it on my way here. Why exactly is she sulking?
For some reason which I entirely fail to comprehend, she has most vociferously denounced fishing as a tedious and unrewarding activity, and declined to accompany me when invited to do so. Completely inexplicable.
You think so? Well, that's one point of view. Other points of view are available.
The doctor shifted slightly in his chair so that he could more conveniently scowl up at her.
When it comes to my interchanges with you, I'm almost inclined to share hers. Fishing for answers from you is repeatedly proving to be a tedious and unrewarding activity.
But the quality one needs most when fishing is patience, Doctor. You know that. A quality which, in this regeneration, I suspect, may not be the one with which you're most blessed.
It's extremely difficult to be patient when all one is presented with is a series of red herrings. If there's one thing at which you positively excel, it's ostensibly sounding very profound, while in fact saying nothing at all. So many words that are, when analysed, collectively totally free of semantic content.
Why, thank you, Doctor?
Dasterian playfully clasped her hands in front of her chest and fluttered her eyelids with exaggerated gratification.
But I'm only following your example. It's the sincerest form of flattery, don't you agree?
I certainly do not.
The doctor snapped, annoyed at the way in which his rapier thrust had been parried.
When I speak, it is always to the purpose.
And you're still trying to decipher my purpose. Don't lose hope, Doctor. I've promised I'll tell you one day, and I will keep my word. But for the time being...
Her eye fell on the left lapel of his coat.
That cat brooch has put me in mind of a principle you might find it helpful to remember.
Indeed.
The doctor's tone conveyed an almost formidable degree of disinterest. Dasterian serenely ignored the phenomenon.
Yes, something an author from Earth called Robert Heinlein once wrote.
And what might that be?
Said the doctor, still employing the same tone. Dasterian smiled.
That women and cats do what they do, men and dogs might as well relax to it. For you, that principle could be amended as mysterious visitants and TARDISes do what they do. Time Lords called the Doctor might as well relax to it.
A principle which in the context of our encounters I cannot refute empirically.
Dasterian looked down at him, one corner of her mouth rising into a half-smile. Then she touched his shoulder and pointed out at the lake.
Doctor, look! Has one of your ruufish taken the bait?
The doctor shot up erect in his chair and fastened his eyes on the hitherto motionless float. It bobbed up and down, then was still. Then it bobbed again, and again with increasing vigour. The doctor sprang up, clutching the rod.
Yes, got you, at last.
He reeled in his catch and turned to triumphantly display it to Dasterian, who was no longer there. The doctor expelled a sharp breath of exasperation, then shrugged.
It would appear that you have not been the only one to take the bait,
he said, addressing the wriggling ruufish.
I'm forced to concede that I just did. Hook, line and sinker. Shall I throw you back to get caught again? Because I have the strongest feeling that that's just what's been done to me.